hopefully they all do good things this season, because they've all got big fights. They've all got big fights, coming up, and they all need to come through the big fights,
Absolutely, mate. And your first fighter out, like you say, is Joe Cordina, isn't it? So
yeah, Joe's coming back off of about 13 months out. I think he's been out, but the reason he's been out that long, obviously because of the COVID as well, but he would have been out sooner. But he's had an hand operation. He's had his metacarpals all fused together. They take a bit. Well, Dr. Mike Ayton done it, who's like probably the best hand surgeon in the country.
Yeah.
And what they do, they take a piece of bone from your hip, and they basically weld it into your bone into your hand. So, because he was having trouble in the last 2 fights with the right hand, and he just couldn't throw it properly. So I said, listen, while we're in lockdown, you might as well get that done. A lot of people are going to be sitting about anyway.
Of course,
so he's had it done. So this will just be like a 10-round comeback fight for him, to get a bit of rust off of him. And then, and don't get me wrong, the guy he's fighting is really decent. He was a really good amateur, and he's a decent, never been stopped. I think he's just lost 2 fights, one for the European title, and another title fight on point. So, he's a really decent opponent to come back on. And then after that, we're looking at a world eliminator and then a world title by the end of the year. So he's going to really push on this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's definitely someone that everyone's watching out for. And like you say, he's got to take it easy in his first comeback fight. You can't stick him in with someone world level, if you like, that, especially after coming back after that long. But no doubt he's going to get through it. And then you have to, I suppose, go back to the drawing board and see where he can go from there.
Well, we're looking at I've already spoken Matchroom, so we're looking at a world, either a former world champion or a world level contender in the fight after this. But I think he'll get 10 good rounds in. I think this guy he's fighting is really durable. He's smart. He's an in and out fighter. I think he'll get 10 good rounds in, which will be good for him, really. And he needs the rounds. And then obviously after that, we'll be looking at either an eliminator for a world title or, a really good fighter in his next fight, just to push him onto that world title scene.
Yeah, because, regardless of the injury, at his level and someone who can fight like Joe, you're not going to want him to have another 3 or 4 fights with people who he's going to bash up, say. You're going to want him to be in an eliminator, like you say, mate. So, all the best of luck to him, definitely. And you've got Felix Cash as well, haven't you, fighting Denzel Bentley?
I've got Felix Cash. Frank Warren won the purse bids for that fight. That's going to happen on the 24th of April on the BT Sports Show. So, yeah, I mean, Felix had a couple of options, really, because Eddie Earn was like sort of dangling the European title fight in front of him with an Italian guy called Sigani. But, we sat down and all spoke about it. Felix wants to win the Lonsdale belt. I think it's good to get the domestic scene sort of, if you got the chance of a British title fight, then, get that out of the way before you move on to European level anyway. And it's just like a nostalgic title, and having a Lonsdale belt wrapped around your waist, So, as I said the other day, it's a good fight for Felix profile-wise. It's the top of the bill, and he's 2 unbeaten fighters, and Denzel Bentley's a decent fighter. He's a good fighter, but... the way I'm looking at Felix, if we are looking at going European titles and then, onto the world scene, then he's got to beat someone like Denzel Bentley at domestic level. It's not worth just jumping above that. So, I'm excited for the fight. I think it gives him a bit of juice in the fight that he's going on to someone else's show, which he hasn't done that in his career yet. And, when you get to world level, that's what happens as well. You just go fight away for world titles. So, it'll all be good experience for Felix to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw in an interview the other day, he said that, if he's going to go on to do the things he would like to do in boxing, then he's going to have to, dispatch of someone like Denzel, in good fashion. So I know he's going to go in there to fight. And I think he knows that he's going to get a good fight out of Denzel. He's not just going to lay down. He's the British champ at the moment. So he's going to have a fight on his hands, but I can tell he's confident he's going to get the job done. And exactly like you just said, you've got to beat someone like Denzel to then go on confidently to fight at the high level. Not to say that he wouldn't have went and done the job for the European title, but it's just nice to take the notches up, in that way.
Yeah, it's always good, like when two unbeaten fighters fight each other. Especially at domestic level, especially for a British title, it gets a lot of people talking about the fight, and I think he'll lift his profile up. If he goes where I think he should be going. And I've been in this game a long, long time, and I've seen a lot of fighters, and I've seen the ability, what he shows in the gym, and, he has shown it in fights as well. He just needs to, lift this Lonsdale belt and then go on, And I said to him, if you ain't doing that at domestic level, then you ain't going to go on and, show the potential that I think you've got to show, So it's a good little test for him at this stage.
Yeah, mate, definitely. And like you say, the fact that it's on an away show as such, that's going to be good for him experience-wise, isn't it? Because not everything's always going to be how you want it, if you like. So I think that's
exactly,
great little fight.
Like we always say that about going on other people's shows, you feel comfortable on your own show all the time. And, it ain't always like that when you get up into a high level. A lot of the times you're not on your own show. So, it's good experience for him. And, as I say, it's a high profile fight at this stage of his career. And I just think he's got a lot of ability, Felix. He can, when I watch him in the gym, he does look world level in the gym. He's, he's got he's got all the things that you need. He's got fast hands. He's got a good boxing brain on him. He can punch hard. He trains hard. He gets himself in the right condition. He eats properly. So he's got all that abilities about him. He's vicious when he's in there. So he's got all them abilities, but you have still got to go and prove it. It ain't just like, you don't just want to keep doing it in the gym. You've got to go in there and prove it, and you've got to prove it, for titles.
And I think it doesn't happen enough these days, like you say, about two unbeaten fights. I think lots of people try and protect their record. And I mean, I was talking about this to someone the other day. It's like the Mayweather era, where it's like, everyone's so scared of losing their winning streak. But at the end of the day, it's boxing. You're going to get in there. You could lose. It doesn't mean it's the end of your career. Do you know what I mean? If anything, it gets your profile up and you make a comeback. It's like perfect example is Dubois Joyce. People were writing Joyce off. Joyce done the job. Dubois, he's bouncing back. You can see him today. He's still very much looking to come back and make a statement. So I'm glad to see people fighting with unbeaten records, because that's what boxing's about. It shouldn't be, all right, let's fight people that we know we're going to beat for the most of our career, and then towards the end, we'll have a fight with someone, and if I lose, it don't matter. I've done this and beat all these people. It should be everyone fights everyone. You're
either going to show what you're made of. When you lose, you're either going to show what you're made of and put it right afterwards, or you ain't going to do it no more. And that just show what you're going to be made of. You see fighters, they lose sometimes, and then they lose again and lose again. So that just shows you what they're made of. And then you see some fighters, they lose, and then they come back stronger. They build their winning record up, fight for world titles or whatever, and come on strong. So it depends who the individual is, what sort of art and stature they're made of, and as you say, a loss don't always do anyone bad, but you just got to come back from that loss a better fighter, and you got to learn from that. You got to realise why you did lose, what you've got to do to make it better, and
definitely,
and
sometimes it can make someone better.
Yeah, a perfect example of that in my gym, I think, to look to is John Ryder, because he put his unbeaten record on the line against Billy Joe for the British title, a similar sort of thing. He went on an away show to Billy Joe on a Frank Warren show, because Frank won the purse bids, and there was nothing in that fight at all. It could have, in my eyes, I thought it was a draw, but there was nothing in the fight. He come back from that and he lost again to Jack Armfield, which was a terrible defeat for him. And from there, no one would have said anything if he retired. You know what I mean? So it was a bad defeat. But he regrouped, he moved up a weight, he learnt from his defeats, you know, and as a super middleweight, he's been like a different fighter, you know. Look what he's gone on to, like, really, everyone knows that he beat Callum Smith that night.
Yeah.
And, you know, he should be world champion now, but, you know, he gets another shot at it anyway. But, you know, that's a perfect example of someone who's lost and bounced back from defeats better than he was, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we could say the same about just going on with a heavyweight example as AJ Ruiz, but I'm not sure that, in my humble opinion, I'm not sure that AJ come back and boxed to a very good game plan. But I've always said, I always felt that he was very, very worried to sort of really get in the mix with Ruiz. He boxed and stayed on the outside and, you know, used his jab and got the win. But I think what people were expecting, and it's not always the right thing to do, and he done what he had to do to get a win. But I don't think he come back in exciting fashion to get his belts back. I think he took it easy, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. And he definitely had a lot of pressure on him in that rematch. If you could imagine the amount of pressure he would have had to try and get the belts back. Yeah. So no, I think you're completely right, mate. I think it's great that two fighters that are undefeated are going to go at it. And I mean, you've got another big fight that's now been moved to Gibraltar, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got Ted Cheeseman Metcalf been moved to Gibraltar.
Another British fight.
It was supposed to have happened this Saturday, weren't it? So
yeah, I was excited about that.
Supposed to have been on tonight. Yeah, so he was ready. You know what I mean? He was ready to fight for tonight.
It's a strange one.
Yeah, I had to pull him up a little bit in training and give him a few days off, and then he's come back into it. So he'll be fine for the 27th. But, you know, as you say, that's a big fight, another big domestic fight. And it should turn out to be a really good fight, that one.
He's always an exciting fight, so I must say. I was really looking forward to it, actually. And then it keeps getting moved back, obviously. I was also looking forward to the WHYTE POVETKIN rematch and stuff. And that card's just going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. I'm quite intrigued to see how the setup's going to be in Gibraltar, to be honest.
I still don't know. I still don't really know what the setup is, to be honest with you. I ain't really heard that much, but all I know it's in Gibraltar on March the 27th. But Matchroom ain't released that much about where it is or what's going on with it, you know. So
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't know that much themselves at the moment, because it's all a bit up in the air, naturally, isn't it? Like they can't be 100% sure just yet. I suppose there's a little bit of planning that goes into something that big.
Yeah, they'd have had all the planners over there straight away sorting it out. Wherever they do it over there and whatever it is, you know, it's going to be good, because everything they do is like spectacular. They spend a lot of money promoting it. So
just look at fight camp.
As long as the ring ain't in the middle of the rock with all the baboons all around it.
I wouldn't be surprised though. I could see Eddie lapping that up actually.
Yeah, true, yeah.
But I think fight camp that he absolutely smashed it with that. I think it was brilliant the way he had that set up, and just the way that you could just hear. I mean, don't get me wrong, BT Sport do it as well, but not as good as Matchroom. I think everyone probably has that same opinion at the moment, but they've really sort of like shown the way for promoters and shows.
Yeah, I think Matchroom, when they put their shows on, they're like Eddie's very flamboyant, and everything he does, even down to his bit of clobber and his cars and that, he's a flamboyant person. So I think he likes to do shows that show that they're spectacular. I mean, if you go back to when he first started promoting at the O2, I mean, you know, with the Neil Diamond song and you know, the lights and you know, everything he does is like a spectacular night out. And I think he always wanted to put shows on that were not just for the boxing public, but for the general public, so that, you know, actual women, you know, men started if you looked at a lot of the O2 shows, men was with their missuses, you know what I mean? And they was all enjoying, like, he started doing the music in between the rounds and the fights, and like, so women could get involved in the journey of not just going to boxing, but it's an actual night out, you know. And he started selling out O2 arenas and went on to start selling out Wembley arenas. So everything that they do, they push a lot of money into making it a spectacular night out, not just like, you know, the routine night of boxing.
Couldn't agree more. I think, like you say, you don't just go to a matchroom show, you know, thinking it's just going to be about it. You know, you're going to have a good night, don't you? So I suppose that's what he aims to do, and he's fulfilled that. So it's a little bit different now, obviously, with no crowds and everything else. But sooner or later, they're going to come back. I know he had a few people at the AJ Pulev fight. I couldn't get tickets to that myself. I was gutted, but they seem to have.
Yeah.
They went in about 2 minutes. I had about 3 laptops out to try and get some, but it doesn't always go your way. But what do you reckon? Just going on to the heavyweights, what do you reckon about White Povetkin 2, mate? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a great rematch. We all saw what Dillian Whyte was achieving in the first fight. You know, he's well in front, had Povetkin on the floor. He won every round up until the one shot that connected with him and knocked him out. Now, could we see a return of that happening? We could do. Or could we see Dillian win every round again? And we could do there as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like one of them fights where it's a toss of a coin what's going to happen again. And that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes this rematch more exciting than the first fight, because, you know, in my mind, I can see Dillian, you know, masterclass in the fight again behind the jab and being smart. But you never know what Povetkin's going to do, whether he's going to pull that one punch out of the bag. And that's what makes it so edge of your seat stuff, because every round you're going to watch now.
Absolutely.
Maybe watching Dillian win the rounds quite comfortably, but every round you're going to think, is Povetkin going to pull one out of the bag? And you'll be sitting on the edge of the seat in every round, I think, watching it.
Well, absolutely. All I have to do is think back to Ruiz AJ in that second fight, because every time they went in and was fighting on the inside, I find AJ has a little bit of it's the way he fights, but I think whenever he comes out of a clinch, for example, he always, for me, looks a little bit unsteady. And that might just be me being over paranoid that he's been hurt. But because of the first fight, the second fight, I was just constantly on the edge of my seat. I really did. I was worried for him, because obviously I wanted AJ to win. I really wanted him to get his belts back, and just for British boxing in general and everything else. But I think White Povetkin 2 is going to be the same. I think it's going to be exactly the same, whereas I'm just going to be worried about you know, White, when he's getting on the inside, Povetkin's going to try and come forward. But I don't know. I haven't seen much of Povetkin in training. I normally try and keep an eye out to see what they've been putting up on social media and stuff, but he's gone really under the radar. So I don't know how COVID's affected him. I don't know, you know, what mind frame he's in, but I know Dillian Whyte, seeing him out in Portugal, I can just see he's really, really sort of ready to go. And, you know, hopefully, again, I'm a big fan of White, so I really do hope he does.
So am I. I am as well. So I hope he pulls it off. Do you know what I mean? I talk to him every now and then, message through the Instagram messages, you know, and he seems in good spirits. And, you know, I just hope he does pull it off. I respect him, and I've got a lot of time for him, you know. And, you know, I really hope he goes out there and boxes the way he did in the first few rounds of the last fight and keeps that going, you know, keeps out the danger of the big bombs and be, you know, smart behind the jab. And like you said with Joshua Ruiz, do what you've got to do. If it means going on the back foot and jabbing and straight shots and movement, then do it, you know, as long as you get the win, because at the end of the day, it's the win that matters. And, you know, he's clever enough and smart enough, like he showed the first time, to go and do that. But it will be edgy of the seat stuff. And, you know, I just hope he can pull it off.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. And I think, like you just said there, he's got to get the win, because there's bigger things for him to come. You know, where does he go after? You know, there's so much more for White to achieve. And I think Povetkin's now coming to the end of his career. I don't know if he'll go in and he might have another fight or another couple of fights, but I can't see him with, you know, huge. I could see him coming, you know, fighting against maybe people who are coming up, you know, rather than world level. So I think Dillian Whyte's got a point to prove. He's got to come back and make a huge statement, and hopefully he can fight. I mean, it looks like something's boiling up with Ruiz. Ruiz gets through his next opponent. I think that'll be a fantastic fight.
That'd be a great fight. That will brilliant fight.
I think Ruiz looks in a lot better shape now. It looks like he's been whipped into shape by Canelo's team.
Yeah,
He's coming back soon. I can't remember the exact date he said now, but he's going to come back, I think, in May or June.
yeah,
And yeah, hopefully he gets a job done, and him and White can go ahead.
yeah. That would be a great fight.
But
yeah.
I've seen also, Tony, that it looks like Fury AJ is getting very, very close to being signed.
Yeah.
And I was having a chat with a couple of people the other day, and one question I've been asking people is, who do you think's got more pressure on them? And obviously, both of them have massive pressure on them. But I wonder what people think about, you know, who has the more pressure. If you had to choose one based on their history and who they've fought previously and what they've got to come after, who do you reckon's got the more pressure on them for this fight?
Like you say, I think obviously both of them have. It's both the biggest fights of their career. You know, you're talking about unifying all the heavyweight belts and being the ultimate heavyweight champion of the world. So, you know, there'd be massive pressure for both of them. But it's who copes with that pressure. You know, it's who can cope with it, you know, because this is going to be like, you know, it's really going to be like, you know, like an Ali Foreman, you know, a Tyson, Lennox Lewis fight. Say it's going to just be massive, beamed all the way around the world. And, you know, you're going to see, you know, the two best heavyweights in the world, you know, fight each other. And, you know, it's who deals with that pressure the best. And, you know, they both got the ability to beat one another and come out victorious, both of them. So it's an exciting fight. And lucky for us, this is, you know, both British.
Yeah.
You know, which it gives for us as Britons more flavour because, you know, I don't think in our lifetime we'll never probably see this again. Do you know what I mean? And to have two Britons at the top of the tree to fight each other, and yeah, who knows what's going to happen that night? You know, you don't know really. It depends who turns up on the night and who style suits who. And, you know, we know Fury is a very clever, smart fighter, and we know AJ's a smart fighter as well who can bang. So, you know, it's a good fight for us all to get involved with and watch.
How do you think their styles gel? Because, like you say, they've got massively different styles. We've got AJ who can box, but probably I wouldn't say to the ability of Fury, but I would say AJ's got more of a bang than Fury, as you say. So, what do you reckon will happen on the night?
Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? You know, it's a bit like we were just talking about there about Dillian White, POVETKIN. Who knows? You know, in that heavyweight scene, one punch just finishes the lot. So you could possibly see Fury running away with a fight early doors behind his jab. You could see Joshua nail him with a big right hand or left hook. Who knows? You know, they're two big giants in the ring. You know, and you just don't know what's going to happen here at all. One thing's for sure, neither one of them can be boxing negative on the night, you know. So, you know, which I don't think either one of them will be. But it's like, who knows what's going to happen? You know, that's the good thing about the fight. It's a 50-50 fight. You can't say what's going to happen. You know, one man might fancy Joshua, the other man will fancy Fury. So you don't really know what's going to happen. You know, but it's going to be a great fight to watch, and I'm sure everybody in Britain's or the world's going to be looking forward to watching it.
Oh yeah, the world's going to be gripped on that one. That's for sure. And obviously you've got BENN out in a month or so, haven't you?
Yeah, April the 10th. Yeah.
How's everything going for him, mate? How's preparation?
Yeah, it's going really well. He just started his sparring this week, so he's done all his fitness work to build up into his sparring, and now, you know, he's in good shape. And we've started his sparring this week. We've got a couple of good sparring people in, and you know, he's looking really well. And in fact, he's looking better than I thought he was going to look in the first week of sparring. Because sometimes when you get him, you know, you get them in shape and then you start them sparring, and then sometimes where they ain't sparred for a bit, you know, they're a little bit rusty. But he's looked sharp straight away on the first day. So I'm really pleased with him, you know, and I know over the next few weeks he's just going to get sharper and sharper. And every camp that we do for a fight, you know, he improves every camp and adds a little bit more to his repertoire of what he's doing. And, you know, he's you know, he's going to be a force to be in the ring with. You know, I think he carries his dad's the same power as his dad had. He carries that power. Bearing in mind he's only 24 years old still, so he's still very young. So he carries that sort of power in both hands, but he's also got a smart boxing brain on him. He gets behind the jab, you know, and he's improving all the time with his boxing, you know, with his boxing and his work ethic as well. He's got a great work ethic, and you know, he works hard at what he does at his job. He's a very hard worker. He does the food right, his nutrition right. So he's got everything in his toolbox really, and I'm excited to see, you know, his journey, because he's starting to step up in levels now. You know, and Formella was a good step up for him in his last fight.
Yeah.
Vargas is a good step up for him. When you look at Vargas' record, he's only really lost to the really elite fighters, and he's been in battles with them elite fighters as well. So you know, he's a durable guy. He can bang a little bit. So, you know, it's a great matchup at this stage of Conor's career. I want these sort of fights for him now so he can learn the experience from being in with decent level fighters, and you know, from there he'll move up again, and from there he'll move up again. You know, so it's just about stepping stones all the way now, really.
One thing I admire about Conor is his mentality. I don't think he's such a good speaker as well. Like when he was on Sky Sports the other day, you had Marku trying to call him out and like sort of drag him into that type of thing. But he stays calm, and he knows how to sort of put himself forward and talk properly, and kind of just explain to people without getting dragged into it that, you know, he's past that at the moment. He's stepping up. He's fighting world level fighters. And I think he said, you know, I don't want 5 or 6 low-level fighters. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fight the big boys. And if he carries on making statements like he did against Formella, he's going to get to the top very quickly, mate. I definitely think he's got the mentality for it.
Yeah, that's right. And it's about building him now. I mean, I wanted him to fight for the British title, you know, British Commonwealth titles against Chris Jenkins. That was the fight that he was mandated for, and I wanted that fight. I really wanted him to fight, and he wanted to do that fight. But it was just like one of them fights that become too impossible to make in the end.
Yeah.
You know, it was dragging on, and it was just getting ridiculous, really. So, you know, we decided just to leave it and move on to, you know, to the next level. And I think in Formella, we picked out an opponent that had only lost to Sean Porter on points, and I think he had a lot better. No disrespect to Chris Jenkins, but he'd fought at a higher level and a better resume than Chris Jenkins has. And I wanted sort of like a better opponent, because we couldn't do the Chris Jenkins fight. I wanted a better opponent than him, and I think we got that in him. And you know, as you see on the night, he boxed really smart behind the jab, and his boxing abilities come on a lot. And you know, I think if it was probably a 12-round fight, he probably would have got Formella out there eventually. He was banged up pretty bad, and there was a case for like his corner maybe pulling him out because he didn't win a round really. You know, he was getting banged up. But as I say, he got through the 10 rounds. It was good for Conor to get 10 rounds out. And as I say, we move on to the Vargas fight, who's been in with everybody. And, you know, he needs to get in there and be smart in this fight and not get involved early on. And, you know, use his jab and his mobility and his speed of punch, and you know, just gain experience from this fight, and then move on to another name and another step up onto even a more top level fighter. Really, and that's what we're going to do, is keep building bricks like that. Really.
Absolutely, and I think it was. There's talks of obviously previously BENN versus Josh Kelly, but obviously Josh Kelly, you know, unfortunately come up short. What did you make of that fight, mate?
Yeah, well, we had the Josh Kelly, you know, we spoke about that with Eddie and the Matchroom. We was looking to do that fight in December. We was going to get another fight in the summer, and then Kelly would have fought in the summer, and then that would have been a big blockbuster fight. But, you know, unfortunately, that fight fell apart, and obviously I was disappointed. I wanted Josh Kelly to win, you know, because, like, you know, he's messed up a big fight, really. You know what I mean? Possibly could have been a pay-per-view fight and all by the end of the year. But anyway, you know, disappointed for Josh to lose that fight, really. I don't know, really. I think in the back of my mind, I was hoping like Josh was going to come, be slick all the way through 12 rounds, be smart, don't mix it up with him, you know, box him. But deep down in my heart, I think I started thinking Everson was going to, you know, do what he done really. He's a tough guy. He walks through people. You know, he's a world level fighter as well. He's been in with a lot of world level opponents. And yeah, I just think, I don't know whether Josh really should be down at welterweight in reality. I think he's too big for a welterweight. I think he might be too even big for a light middleweight. You know what I mean? He's just like, the guy's massive, you know. So
you can't switch off against someone like him. And I feel like he did switch off after a little while. He hurt him in the 3rd round or something like that, I believe. And I think he just kind of started to, I don't like to say gas, because obviously these guys are fit as a fiddle, but I just think the fight was getting to him. And like you say, when he wasn't getting him out, I think he started to feel it a little bit more, and then he got caught. And for someone like Josh Kelly, when he gets caught and has to take a knee, I think that really knocks your confidence if you haven't been in fights where that's happened to you before. So, you know, like you say, it's unfortunate because that would have been a fantastic fight if you mentioned, you know, potentially going to happen in December. But everything happens for a reason. I'm a strong believer of that.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, maybe they'll meet in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think like Josh needs to move up a weight or two. I don't think he'll ever do welterweight again. I think it was like not a good move to keep him at welter. And I think that cost him the fight. I don't think at all that his fitness was any doubt. I just think when you're cutting weight, you know, and you're cutting too much weight, and that's what happens to you. You just can't get through the rounds. And if you look at his past 2 or 3 fights before that, that's gone a distance. I mean, after 4 or 5 rounds, he just ain't the same fighter.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, cutting weight does weaken you. And I feel like that, you know, I don't know for sure, but that's what he looks like to me, that he's cutting too much weight and he's weak in the fight, in the back end of the rounds, he's weak. And that would have always been my plan with CONOR, is to soak up the first few rounds, because he's hard to stay with in the first few rounds. Obviously, he's got a lot of ability and speed, but he'd been just to soak up what's coming at you. And then in the back end of the fight, it's to climb all over him, really, and just don't leave him alone. And, you know, but I think he should move up a weight or even 2 weights. And if he does that, I'm sure that he'll be a force, you know, because if you look at the light middleweight division and the middleweight division, he could be a great addition to that, you know, domestically and on the world scene, you know. And if you can see Josh Kelly fight like that for 12 rounds, like he can fight for say 5 or 6 rounds, if you can see him fight like that for 12 without gassing, you know, he's going to be a formidable force, you know, in any division. But I don't see him being a welterweight again. No way.
Yeah, it's a strange one. But the last thing I wanted to ask you about, mate, was a couple of the heavyweight fights that are potentially getting made. One of them, did you watch the Parker fight the other day?
I didn't get to watch it, but obviously I know Parker won, but some people said it was a bit of a drab fight.
It was a lot of clinching. It was a bit of a hug fest, especially towards the end. But the truth is, I put that down to Junior far more than Parker, if I'm honest. But Parker's sort of come out of that fight, and now he's very close to signing a fight against Chisora.
Yeah,
which I think will be. Yeah, I think that would be. I think Chisora, after his last performance, you know, he trains very, very hard for Usyk, and unfortunately come up short.
Yeah.
Because of Usyk's ability, I just think he outboxed him, regardless of what people said that were in the arena. I think people were a bit biased and stuff, and felt that Chisora done better than he did. Not taking anything away from him, because Usyk's a fantastic fighter. But yeah, lastly, mate, what do you think? How do you think that would go? Someone like Parker against Chisora.
Oh, I think it's a good matchup. You know, obviously Chisora needs to get back on the winning front again, and he's another guy I respect a lot. You know, Derek, he's done a lot for heavyweight boxing in his country. He's always been in exciting fights. You know, the 2 fights he had with Dillian Whyte was great fights, and
they were unbelievable.
You know, yeah, great fights. You know, and Josie Parker's another exciting fighter. He's been in some good fights. You know, and he was in a good fight with Dillian Whyte. So Um, yeah, it's a good fight. You know, it's another 50-50 fight, and people will be interested to tune in to see that fight as well. And you know, that's what matchmaking is all about. When you're making these fights, they're not all for world titles, obviously, because there's only like 1 or 2 world champions that are going to fight each other. So the ones underneath them, you got to make exciting fights, you know, and you know, Matchroom continue to do that. And it's another exciting fight that people will want to tune into, because you don't know what's going to happen in it.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Parker probably about 6 months ago now, and he was saying to me that he regretted the way he fought against White. He regretted the way he fought against AJ, because he knew he should have been more aggressive. You know, there's people out there that think if the White fight went on for another couple of rounds, you know, Parker could have taken it. I personally don't believe that. I think Parker allowed Dillian White to sort of bully him, and he won most of the rounds at the start, and then, you know, he started getting a bit tired naturally towards the end, and Parker kind of had a little bit more fitness towards the end that was catching him. But I think what we need to see from Parker, in my opinion, is just, he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. The same with Junior Farr, you know. I think he had opportunities to get in there a little bit more and potentially, you know, knock him out. But I think he bases himself on how the opponent's fighting, if that makes sense. So, you know, if the opponent's, you know, fighting behind the jab, it's like Parker will mimic that, whereas he should be, you know, putting his will on the other person. You know, regardless of how they're fighting. But yeah, we've got loads of exciting fights coming up, mate. Obviously including lots from your stable. So I'm excited for you, mate. Hopefully they'll get off to a good start. We'll smash it and lead on to big things, mate. But I really appreciate you talking to me, Tony.
No problem, anytime.
And, you know, maybe one day when COVID's calmed down, we could get down the gym and get some filming with you and stuff. That'd be great.
When it's more safer, then, you know, you'll be able to get down.
Lovely, mate.
But,
all right, thank you,
God
Tony.
bless anyway. Thank you
Enjoy
very
the rest
much.
of your weekend, mate. Take care.
God bless. Cheers, mate. Bye.